Okay, so if you've got in any kind of internet forum about mopeds or Facebook group about mopeds, particularly classic ones, one of the first questions after why won't my moped start will be, how do I make my moped go faster? It's kind of ironic because the manufacturer's intention for this type of bike was economy, as well as also making sure it met the legislation that enabled it to be registered as a moped in the first place. Now, as soon as you make your bike go a lot faster than 30 miles per hour, both of those things go out the window. Now, with that in mind, you may wish to keep your bike fairly stock looking with regards to performance, but you might want to make it a bit more practical. So what are your options? Okay, so most classic mopeds are quite practical anyway because they come with a rear rack of some sort, either tubular like on these Tomos mopeds or a pressed steel one. And you can bolt no end of kind of soft luggage like pannier bags to them or hard luggage like top boxes. This is actually a pannier box that's supposed to go on the side of the bike, one either side. I was only able to get hold of one of them. It's made by Craven. And it's made out of glass fiber reinforced plastic, and the beauty of that is you can actually repair them quite easily and modify them to suit your bike, which is what I've done with this one. I've cut the middle out, bonded it back in again, and then had it sideways across the rack to allow it to give me storage space here as well as at the top. This one's made by Rickman, who are actually more known for their GRP products like the Rickman Ranger kit car and the earlier Matisse motorcycles. It's made out of polypropylene, so it's not so easy to repair if it breaks, but it's a little bit lighter. Something to bear in mind is the weight that you carry in this. The bigger the box, the more weight it puts on the back of the bike, which can make the steering feel a little bit light if it's overloaded. So always check the manufacturer's recommendations on how much can be carried on the rack. So something else you might want to consider when making your bike more practical are handlebars. This might not seem obvious, but when you're riding, you need to have kind of be as comfortable as possible. Now, kind of your commuter bikes from the 1970s, you know, these Tomos are a good example of that because they pretty much have the same bars from the 1970s right up to the 1990s and beyond. Were quite high like this, and this kind of promotes a rather upright kind of riding style, which makes it about as aerodynamic as a brick. Something to bear in mind when you've tuned your bike for maximum performance. You're not going to get it when you're riding like Peter Fonda and Easy Rider. You need to have more of a crouched position. Again, if you fit lower bars, if you go too low, you can get a bad back as you're riding kind of tucked in all the time. Okay for short journeys, but not for kind of longer moped adventures. There is a kind of happy medium, so it's got a slight rise to them, but you know, they're not like ape hangers, but they're also not like kind of ace bars. I use something similar on these bikes here, and I find them, you know, a happy medium between, you know, comfort as well as being able to kind of tuck in when I need to. I did once have a set of ace bars on my green special, which looked absolutely awesome, but they were about the worst you can get for riding long distances with. I also cut my bars down as well. I'll show you. So see how much longer this set of bars is compared to them. I do this mainly for storage in the shed, because there's nothing worse than walking into the shed, catching the grip on, you know, a pocket or something like that, and it pulls the handlebars and you end up dragging the bike with you as you walk into the shed. Something else you might want to consider, if you can find one, is a handlebar fairing like this. Well, it's an auto jumble, it's meant for Honda Camino, but that meant it also was designed to fit all the way up here on the higher bars, and the headlight was in a section by here. I've cut this section out of the GRP, lowered it down, and it fits much better on the Tomos. This is an absolute godsend in the winter because it keeps the wind chill off your hands and it gives your fingers from getting frostbite. I had to make up my own mounting brackets for it using threaded bar and some P-clips. But yeah, this goes on every winter, and I've ridden all weather with it, and it is an absolute must. Something else to consider when it comes to comfort is the height of your saddle and your foot pegs, because if you're quite a tall rider, you'll find that your legs get cramp because you're riding with your knees bent all the time. If you've got a pedal start only moped, they've usually got an adjustable saddle height like on a bicycle, so you can adjust it to suit your inside leg measurement, and that means that when you're pedal starting or using pedal assist, you don't get cramp in your legs. On a kickstart only moped, and one that's got a saddle that's kind of fixed in position, there's no height adjustment, this can cause a problem, but you can kind of get away with adjusting the height of your pegs still. Now on a Tomos moped, actually comes with this little kind of indexing bump here on the foot peg bracket. This means you can rotate this 180 degrees, so it's down there. And this means it's a little bit more comfortable if you've got longer legs, although you've got to be careful with your lean angles because you'll find that you'll scrape the bottom of the pedal rubber as you go around corners. Something else you can also do, this is what I do on my bikes, It's fit folding pegs, which makes them easier for storage. So this is the type of folding peg that I've got on my Thomas A3ML. It's actually a pillion peg off a Japanese bike from the 1980s, although you can get aftermarket ones of these. Notice it's got a bracket that drops down, and I've bolted it directly to the bracket underneath the engine. It's got a 10mm mounting bolt in there, but it hasn't got that little indexing thing on the bracket. So you've got to tighten it up quite a bit to stop it from kind of rotating if you put any force on there. Although it does have the advantage now that I can fold it up out the way and I don't catch my leg on it as I walk into my narrow workshop. If you can only find this type of one where the thread is actually kind of welded to the bracket, if that's the same thread, if that's M10, in theory you could just screw it into that mounting bracket beneath the engine, but you'd have to put a lock nut on there to actually kind of lock it in place where you wanted it. Alternatives to that is you take your standard foot peg, cut it off there, drill that hole out, and then bolt that to that, and then cut your thread off there. So there's one more accessory that'll make your Thomas A3 a little bit more practical. Like mine underneath the saddle here. And that's a little miniature tyre inflator. Which is very handy. But what if you haven't got a saddle like this to keep stuff underneath? Such as a saddle like this on the Thomas A3K. Well, if you happen to own a Thomas A3K, or any other Thomas for that matter, in the A3 or A35 series, they actually put brackets behind the right side panel to hold a tyre inflator. This is just a standard bicycle one. It's 30 centimeters long and 2.5 centimeters in diameter. Okay, so hopefully that's giving you some ideas on how to make your bike a bit more practical. Personally, I like to have a little bit more performance and practicality, only just to keep up with traffic. Back in the 1960s, 1970s, where the roads were a bit quieter, I don't think it would have been an issue. So anyway, thank you for subscribing. It's much appreciated if you've done so recently. It really helps boost the channel. And take care. I'll see you again soon.